Good evening. I am Michelle Suetsugu. This is the rough draft of my final presentation. I'll be coming to you and providing my meeting through Zoom with the screen share function. So we're talking about social networking, and social networking is the broad term used to include graphical user interfaces as social mechanisms under the brand names of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. For the purpose of this study, the focus was directed to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter users. Change screens there, pardon me. The image shown here shows the age brackets of users by social network brand. So the blue line is the major group across the top three that were the focus of this study, with 84% of the Facebook users being 18 to 29 years of age, while 31% of Twitter users are 18 to 29, and 30% of Instagram users are 18 to 29. Social networking began to grow in the late 1990s, with the first major social networking sites being Facebook and Twitter, garnering worldwide availability in 2006. With a staggering 31% of American adults experiencing some anxiety issues at some point in their lives, the direct link between social networking sites like Facebook and the deterioration of emotional well-being must be understood. Well-being, though subjective, is a reflection to the extent in which people perceive how well their life is going. It is important to understand the impact of social networking on individual well-being and if it's damaging to members of society. The purpose of this research serves to answer the question, is social networking detrimental to the individual's well-being? The individual's happiness is rooted in well-being as a product of social capital and scarred by self-comparison. Social capital includes things such as interpersonal relationships, a shared sense of identity, a shared understanding, shared norms, shared values, and trust, cooperation, and reciprocal relationships. Self-comparison is the user comparing their life to how well they perceive the lives of others to be and to make a personal judgment based upon that comparison. Engaging in self-comparison through aspects such as comparing the physical attributes of their bodies against the qualities of others, the quality of life they expect the friend user to have based on travel or purchased goods, or users engaging in self-comparison are essentially comparing their everyday life to the highlight reel of another's displayed on the social network. This is Vincent van Gogh's painting titled The Mulberry Tree. The southern France in the late 1800s was in a great time of recession and economic downturn. The devaluation of silver combined with the boom of several markets and the collapse of the farming markets led to the Panic of 1873, which instigated the recession known as the Long Depression. The Long Depression lasted from 1873 to 1896, the period in which Van Gogh lived his adult years. The Mulberry Tree by Vincent van Gogh represents the tumultuous nature of societal forces on personal growth and happiness during the Long Depression. The mulberry tree, as painted by Van Gogh, appears to be the chaos of society reflected in the individual. In the tumultuous late 1800s, when worldwide markets were changing, the mulberry tree is deeply rooted. It's anchored to the spot like an individual, unable to escape the enveloping chaos. The deep roots are the connection man feels to his family, self, and state, and remind the viewer that moving without immense will or the assistance of others to escape the forces of society is nearly impossible. In a state of societal motion, war recovery, and financial distress, the mulberry tree stands as the individual, fixed to its spot, unable to flee, forced to bear witness to the flurry of activity around it, and weather the storm, seemingly bearing the consequences alone. Often the impact of society on the individual goes unnoticed through it, though in this painting, the tree becomes the visual representation of the individual impacted by society. Vincent van Gogh's The Mulberry Tree gives a discernible representation to the chaotic state of the mind. Paint applied almost too liberally, brushstrokes show the paint applied almost too liberally, and brushstrokes that show the chaos of the Panic of 1873 as it was alive in his mind. The use of the back of the paintbrush, excuse me, On the work shows the agitation felt by the artist, a result of uncertainty and societal pressures. The vibrating, contrasting colors are the clash of the society against the individual, each seeking to dominate the landscape. Pressure in society creates leaves entangled on twisting branches, where no leaf is painted as an individual, coming from many overlapping arenas of life, not one piece that can be separated without impacting the others. In the 21st century, the societal pressures applied to a large segment of the population, those who are 18 to 30 years of age, comes from social networking. Twitter's framework of short posts and retweets draws the user into concerns of much larger groups, leaving users feeling stress and anxiety over a population they do not have direct ties to. The applications of Instagram and Snapchat, which focuses on image sharing, have a strong connection to negative feelings from self-comparison. Through the use of images over words in postings. Self-comparison and toxic algorithms detract from the individual happiness, weakening the mental state and damaging the well-being of the individual. The use of social networking leaves the user in a delicate mental state, much like that expressed by Van Gogh in the mulberry tree painting. The delicate state causes many users to move through life passively, a state that detracts from personal capital and retards social involvement. Even in its example of peer pressure. Come on, Devin, you know you want a carrot. Shows that peer pressure and social expectations can be positive, although in the general train of thought when regarding teenagers, that peer pressure is a negative life factor. Adolescents absorbing the comments of peers and taking each comment, judgment, or opinion as a valuable assessment of self damages social capital and creates an unhealthy state of mind. Peer pressure reflects the depression in social networking users. In social networking, users are seeking acceptance, create, and respond to posts that reflect how they wish to be perceived by peers. This falsification of self for approval depreciates an individual's self-worth, detracts from relationships, and diminishes social capital. Social cliques are exclusive groups, generally with shared interest. Social cliques are prevalent in the educational setting, and adolescents explore their expanding place in the world. Their independence from the nuclear family leaves them still seeking to be attached to a group and the protections afforded by the group. Adolescents not in the social clique are aligned with toxic self-comparison patterns and a desire to be liked as they perceive others to be liked. Social network users have this same experience, wanting to be part of a group by joining group pages, tagging friends in posts to show their affiliation. A person does not need to be seeking acceptance in the social clique to be affected by peer pressure to conform. Exclusion from social cliques still carries a weight of peer pressure. If someone does not fit into the recognized social clique, they're expected to fit into an alternate grouping, and their social capital is impacted accordingly. The innate desire to be accepted by one's peers makes peer pressure a prevalent and tangible concept to adolescents and adults, causing them to suffer distress or conform, oftentimes both. Likewise, not being a member of a social clique can cause uncertainty in the lives of adolescents, impacting their self-efficacy and self-worth, both factors in social capital. All interactions are filtered through how the transmitter wants to be perceived and how the receiver collectively feels about themselves. Social networking's impact on happiness as it relates to well-being is the digital equivalent of peer pressure and social cliques in educational settings, and as such, users must be aware of how they receive those interactions. Taylor Argo and Lisa Lowry of Michigan State College of Human Medicine used PHQ-9 questions to understand the correlation between social media use and its effect on well-being. The PHQ-9 is a series of 9 questions that measure depression and the severity of depression. Using paper surveys that contained 44 questions, including 9 PHQ-9 questions, researchers looked for correlations between increased usage of social media and increases in PHQ-9 scores. The surveys were distributed to patients in the outpatient offices of the Adolescent Medicine and General Academic Pediatrics in Grand Rapids, Michigan, over a 3-month period in 2016. Noting that there was no statistically significant correlation between increased social media use and PHQ-9 scores, Researchers did find that participants with an initial higher PHQ-9 score had significant feelings of increased depression and anxiety after using social media. The raised PHQ-9 scores were also reflected in the frequency in which participants compared their lives to others on social media and experienced feelings of jealousy. My survey contained Likert-style questions for independent research. In each month of February, March, and April, an open survey link was published on Facebook and Instagram. Each month survey closed after 200 participants were surveyed. Both February and March reached 200 participants each. The April survey was closed early, and after 2 weeks, it only had garnered 78 participants. The surveys informed users that the research was for a senior capstone project and allowed individuals to self-select and voluntarily complete the survey by acknowledging they were between the ages of 18 and 30. The surveys provided complete anonymity as they self-identified as active or passive social networking users. The 4 questions following the acknowledgement of age and activity style of user asked participants to rate individual levels of happiness after usage. The Suetsugu survey received 478 participants, in which 43 identified as passive users of social networking and 435 identified as active users. The participants who identified as active users rated themselves higher in happiness on the Likert scale while considering their last 30 minutes of social networking use. Of the active respondents, 13 provided affirmative answers to feelings of jealousy, and 11 answered in the affirmative to feelings of sadness after social networking. Of the 43 passive users, rated themselves lower in happiness scale, while 19 users confirmed feelings of jealousy. 20 reported feelings of sadness after social networking usage. The research findings indicate internet usage is beneficial amongst active social networking users who experience greater social connectedness, positively influencing mental and physical well-being, a benefit not received by passive users. Argo and Lowry provide a direct link to the increased level of depression and the life dissatisfaction with social media, whereas other studies directly link unhappiness to explicit social comparison inside social networking. Argo and Lowry also reveal a relation and the jealousy of others and self-comparison to social media. The overconnectedness of users, whereby the average Facebook user has 130 friends and bidirectionally connected contacts, so friends of friends or acquaintances, dilutes the emotional and social support benefits of friendship. The popular opinion that social networking may be harmful to users already lacking social capital has been confirmed. It can be inferred that social media usage can be harmful to individuals that use social networking for self-comparison, deepening the feelings of depression and anxiety. The Suetsugu survey results show a higher correlation of increased sadness and jealousy among passive users after social networking usage. Users reporting passive usage reported feeling sad after viewing happy posts of friends. Passive users also reported more inclination towards jealousy in the survey results. The percentage of active users reporting negative impacts was significantly lower. Self-identified active users logged off of networking sites, reporting feeling more feelings of happiness after reading positive posts from friends, while on average, fewer instances in which they felt jealousy. The Suetsugu surveys confirm that previous findings, active users received more positive benefit to the individual level of happiness from social networking usage, while passive users received more negative effects from the use of social sites. Self-comparison, the act of valuing oneself based on the perceived ranking of others, has been identified as detrimental behavior associated with social networking. The style in which social networking propagates self-comparison through passive usage causes mental health deterioration. When an individual views another as having an enviable life or a greater status, the upward comparison has a negative consequence on the emotional and mental well-being of the individual, leaving users feeling depressed. Indirect self-comparisons, when a user views a sidebar publication affiliated with their search results of them or their affiliations, also impact self-esteem. Friend-to-friend comparisons, when individuals from seemingly similar backgrounds come from seemingly similar backgrounds, yet one individual views the others having more success in life, causes deep feelings of inferiority. The effects of social networking are only viable through social comparison. And without social comparison, the internet has the possibility of increasing happiness. So those users with the lower PHQ-9 score, as defined by the Argo and Lowry study, do less self-comparison during social networking, reaping the benefits of expanded contact. Mental health deterioration from social networking comes in the form of social comparisons. Friend-to-friend posts displaying that seemingly perfect life are also at fault in social comparison, causing users to feel inferior or dissatisfied with their own life and wondering why they're not living the best life possible. Social networking sites cause harmful mental health issues through social comparisons and loss of social capital amongst users. Social capital through volunteer work or organizational affiliation does not have an impact on overall life satisfaction, whereas life satisfaction increases through frequent familial contact and continues to show positive capital gains when contact is with friends or acquaintances. Well-being can be improved online. Well-being can be improved when online social networking activity also expands social capital by providing people an opportunity to make new friends or develop intimate relations, the main factor in influencing happiness. Active users build feelings of connectedness by posting, replying, and offering support online, building their social capital. Passive users who scroll thoughtlessly or reply in a passive manner are drawn into social comparison and lose social capital. Social capital is entangled in the activity level of the social networking user. So as such, the lower the social capital of the user, the more likely that user will be passive without engaging other users. Users that initially start with a higher social capital are more likely to provide support to others and continue to grow their own social capital. For those who have few friends, social networking may have a detrimental effect on users' well-being. The internet deepens feelings of isolation and depression. The detrimental effects of well-being were more acutely related to the lack of social capital and loosely attributed to internet usage. The negative effects on life satisfaction occurred due to exposure to positive images and posts about happiness from friends that cumulatively create feelings of jealousy when social comparison is triggered in the user. The culture of social networking sites is to generate the most attention through social posts. Often these posts are meant to incite feelings in other users. Posts that stimulate anxiety, anger, or jealousy receive the most attention. The ability to like a social network status update has created a unique competitive nature to social networking. The view of social networks often creates a desire to receive peer approval through the form of likes or post attention and may be impacting personal happiness. Social networking through sites like Facebook and Instagram, while promoting global connectedness, provide an open window into the posted lives of friends and acquaintances and public figures. Social networking also facilitates social capital through interpersonal communications and helps users develop and leverage social capital where users are not predisposed to use networking for comparison. Though the popularity of social networking and ongoing usage may generate positive or negative emotional effects through user self-comparisons, including related loss or gains of social capital, its long-term effects are restricted. It is thus far determined that the usage of social networking declines when users surpass the age of 30, and thereby relieve the strain of social comparison impacts on happiness and social capital. And while breaking up may be hard to do, especially in that 18 to 30-year age range, users who log off find more happiness and benefits to their well-being by actively engaging in life and in their community and in social events. Hyper-focus on social networking by adolescents and users in the 18 to 30 age group may disrupt interpersonal communications outside of networks. Frequent passive usage can induce or exacerbate feelings of isolation. The considerations for social capital, which are so entangled in the activity level of social networking users. Those with higher PHQ-9 scores are more likely to have predisposition to depression and to be passive users with a strong link to self-comparison and low social capital. For passive users with or without identified raised PHQ-9 scores, the negative effects of social networking resonate more deeply. For users with a high level of social capital prior to usage, users are able to grow their happiness by avoiding self-comparison. and grow their social capital through networking activities. Active social network users provide more support, share more happiness, and maintain stronger connections to family and friends, the roots of social capital. So in conclusion, social networking's impact on well-being is not static. Frequent users may find themselves facing anxiety at the separation from network friends when online time is decreased. Hyper-usage can result in anxiety when friendship pools are diluted with bidirectional contacts, leaving users fearing they may miss out on a post or a chance at inclusivity. In other instances, passive users who become active users in pursuit of romance, friendship, or other causes can cause the impact of their social networking to, good thing it's a rough draft, can move their social networking to a positive position. The effects of individual levels of happiness are relative to the passive or active natures of the user, whereas passive users receive more negative effects than active users do in positive effects. The use of social networking sites is damaging to users with a lower social capital who use the sites passively and actively engage in self-comparison. And that is it for my presentation. Thank you for joining me. Have a good evening.